Listen to the sound of footsteps in the dark, to voices that may not be quite human, to the sound of screams in the night. The Haunted Cabaret, the home of all things horror, on Rhode with your host, George Garner. The Haunted Cabaret starts now.
sing again. If I don't sound very cheerful, I think that I'm a schizophrenic. So tell me, people, am I going insane? Insane. Tell me, people, am I going insane? Insane. Tell me, people, am I going insane?
All right. The question was, am I going insane? Black Sabbath. Here to kick off this issue of the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio. And the answer to that is going, gone. I think it's safe to say. I'm George Garner, your host as always. Across the table from me, substituting for a certain absent clown, is Psycho Ed, disc jockey extraordinaire.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good. It's after 6.
Good day.
Good day. Tony Jones at the controls. And I'll tell you, I don't know where to get started. I mean, by the way, I made up that set list long before I walked into this room, and Tony informed me exactly how demented the world had become in just the 20 minutes it took me to drive over here. But apparently, we have something that resembles a nuclear pulse that has knocked out Cox Cable all along the east coast of the United States. Now, it wasn't a real nuclear pulse, obviously, because only Cox Cable has ceased to function. I mean, all our other, electrical appliances and gadgets are doing just fine, thank you. But, I looked at a map diagram of this outage, and Ed, doesn't it? It looks for all the world.
Well, it's pretty big. It's from the map I'm just looking at now. It's going from Philadelphia all the way to Maine, and pretty much covering about half of New York. So it's a pretty good size vacuous suckhole of lack of internet.
And we always knew this day would come, didn't we? Well, I mean, even as we sat in basements fingering our gadgets, even as we sat in front of all those on-demand movies, even as a matter of fact, even as we sit at this very table, because the only people hearing this show live are the people in this studio.
And the voices in my head.
And the voices in Edward's head. Yeah. All the rest of you folks, you will be hearing it later on after the fact. But we will, as they said in the War of the Worlds, this broadcast is for future history, if any. So.
And as they said on vaudeville, the show must go on.
And going on, it truly is.
If you have a show like the Haunted Cabaret, you are currently living in what they call a content-rich environment.
Absolutely. So content-rich that we can't really distinguish between reality and fiction, which has led to my thesis, which I've expounded on Tony Jones's show in the past and a couple of other places, that there is no such thing as real life anymore. It's all fiction, 24/7. I guess, you could say it's all a reality show, but it's one step beyond that. I mean, it's just all fiction.
Substitutionary reality.
Substitutionary reality, exactly. Substituted by, I don't know, any theories?
I'm actually thinking we're being pre-programmed by the internet, which right now it's down. You're going to see a lot of people in panic mode because they don't have that.
Well, Cox Cable internet is down.
This is true, but how many people have Cox internet? So right now, the people that have the Cox internet are in panic mode right now because they cannot get onto their social media outlets. They're not being, they can't download their music or video games. Video games alone are pretty much any online role player game is pretty much down.
Right. Now the question is, what's going to happen to these people in the short run? Are they going to just, their circuits are all open waiting for input and nothing happens, so they're just hearing static? Or are these people's brains literally going to just...
Well, it depends on the person. I mean, if you have someone who's already damaged goods to begin with but has an active mind, they can find something else to do. If you are the equivalent of human veal and you need to be spoon-fed your entertainment and your information off a little white screen, you are screwed.
Right, now, find something else to do. Maybe just because I am who I am and this show is what it is. When you say find something else to do that doesn't relate to the internet, that kind of fills me with an uneasy feeling. I mean, I'm picturing all these little children of helicopter parents, and when I say little children, I mean from about 3 years old to 30. I'm picturing them basically carrying around sharp objects and utensils, demanding their internet access.
Internet.
The voice is growing.
Well,
The movement is growing.
if you are of the kind of person that actually has an idea of life outside of the internet, if
All right,
you're
we're not talking about those people.
okay, because they'll be able to either pick up a book, a magazine, or whatever.
The two I know are in this room.
If you are the kind of person who has to be spoon-fed your information and everything comes off your computer and you have no life beyond that computer, just go to sleep. There is nothing constructive you're going to be able to do in the period of time until the internet comes back up. And
Right.
if there's days, just
Shut down.
just shut down. Give
Shut
up.
down and rest your batteries.
But there's a larger, and I hate to get too serious here on the Haunted Cabaret, but there's a larger economic issue here because I do some work for a local restaurant, and a large portion of the business to said restaurant is specials we post on Facebook, content we put on the website. That drives actual money-paying customers to said restaurant.
That's just, so there. Yeah, now that you mentioned it, there is a major financial component to this, isn't
It's
there?
not just the nerds.
So, what do Tony? What's your prediction then? Since you decided to get serious, are we going to find out this was a glitch? Are we going to find out this was hackers? Are we going to find out this was sabotage? What's your prediction?
I think it's probably just a glitch. You know, I'm sure you guys know, and everybody listening knows that there's some serious infrastructure deficiencies regarding what National Grid has put up and what Cox Cable has put up, going back to Dimension Cable, going back to the companies that owned it before Cox. So, unfortunately, our grid is so unstable that if a pigeon poops in the wrong place, we're all out of electricity for a week. So it's probably something like that.
All right. So, would it be safe to say that we are power slaves?
And, I would hope that's the case because we run an internet radio station here. And if there's no internet, that takes the first word out of internet radio station.
Or if we've been taken over by, say, a terrorist network or something like that. I don't think they're going to give free rein to the Haunted Cabaret and Tony Jones's political insights.
No,
and
no.
I think we'll probably either be off the air or mouthing.
Or worse than that, back on AM.
Oh, please. This is the home of all things horror, but some things even I don't want to contemplate. In fact, let's go back to the music for the moment. How about Powerslave? A little Iron Maiden cover from Ancient Wisdom here on the Haunted Cabaret on Rhode Island Free Radio. All right, that was Ancient Wisdom covering Iron Maiden, Powerslave. And there's not many covers that I like as much as the original when it comes to a band of the caliber of Iron Maiden, but that one comes close. Just decided to see what you think. Now, Ed, during the music, Ed was telling me actually a couple of disquieting things. One about, I was really listening to the music more than Ed. So was it something about you beat up a woman with a pool cue?
No, I came close.
Okay.
I used to play on a pool team, and I had been drinking, as all good stories start, and I've always been an honest pool player. And this woman, every shot I took, kept claiming that I was cheating. I've got 10 sets of eyes on this pool table. If you could tell me how I can cheat with 10 people watching me, please inform me.
Yeah, and after everybody's had several beers, those eyes are very diligent.
Oh, God,
Yes.
yeah. And like I said, I had been drinking, well, heavily, and I was seconds away from just cracking a $400 pool cue over this chick's head.
Yeah, well, I can't really blame you if I wanted to crack a woman over the head. The closest I ever came to smashing somebody in the head with a pool cue was this handicapped guy in a wheelchair. Did you ever notice how handicapped guys in wheelchairs in pool halls, they always manage to be in the way?
Of course.
It's like, I don't know, they just think that it's their right to, I don't know how they do it. I mean, they could be playing at a table 3 tables away from me, but they'll find a way to bump into me with their wheelchair.
You know, you have to give them a little bit of leeway because of, they're in a chair.
Right,
But-
a little, yeah.
But if you're 3 tables away and you're in my way, I am definitely going to grab you by the handles and wheel your crippled backside to wherever the heck you belong.
Yeah, that's
But
yeah. Now as far as this girl that kept getting mad at you,
yeah,
for cheating, now
Allegedly cheating.
allegedly,
well, her accusation was that you were cheating. Obviously, you weren't.
no.
No, not supervised by all the people who surround a pool table on a night like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely not. No, Minnesota Fats could not cheat under those circumstances. But yeah, she could have been one of the. Now we were talking also, and this is a really creepy subject.
Well, that spins off, and like I think what you're going to bring up is the thing I told you about my niece.
Yes,
Okay,
which I find more creepy than some Lovecraftian horrors. Go ahead.
Well, it's the self entitlement and you were talking about the helicopter kids.
Well, first of all, tell our listeners though exactly what
Okay,
the situation.
my niece is going to college. She's putting into different colleges, and so far on at least one college application, when they ask about where you're going to live, with on campus, off campus, your own apartment, what have you, my niece put in almost exactly to these words: "I am never leaving my mother's house. I am going to live with her until one of us dies."
Yeah, and that's very disquieting because all I can remember, and I'm a little bit older than that generation, but not that much. I mean, I wasn't around to see the Noah's flood. I'm not that old, but I remember that when I left high school, my first thought, all of our first thoughts, was either get a job and get the hell out of mom's house, or go to college far away from mom and dad and have a good time.
I agree.
But now we're seeing this very unsettling circumstance.
Well, what's stranger to me than that is I could not wait to sign up at 15 and a half years old for driver's education to get my driver's license. I mean,
Right.
I could not wait. I was drooling. And these kids, they don't even want to get their driver's licenses.
How do they get around?
Mom
Mom
and
and
dad.
dad.
This is getting. I'll tell you, if you can't see me now because this is an audio medium, but goosebumps of creepiness crawling up my arms and down my back.
Progressively, as the generation by generation comes through, kids are less and less likely to leave the house at 18.
Ever.
Or even ever at this point. I mean, hell, I'm
Yeah,
in
it
my
sounds like-
40s. I have friends that have moved back in with their parents.
It sounds like the age is creeping higher and higher.
It
right?
is.
From 18 to 20 to 25.
Because think you can stick on your parents' health insurance until age 27.
Right.
So if you move out before that,
in other words, you can rationalize not moving
Right,
out before
yeah.
then because, it's just a wise decision. You're not being a parasite.
Yeah, no. When I moved out of my parents' house, I was 25. I will readily admit that.
Right. That's
But-
fine. I was 23. That's a reasonable age.
But I had moved out because I was getting married.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I had a really good job and I was making good money. And why am I going to spend it on something that I don't need,
Right.
like an apartment rent, when mom and dad still kind of like me and
Food.
they're putting up with my crap? So
Right, and plus you're saving up to get married. So
Exactly.
So there was some logic there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. When I told my mother I found an apartment and I was going to move out, she didn't hear the rest of the sentence because I said,
Hallelujah.
I told her I'm going to move out at the end of the month. All she heard was, I'm going to move out.
Right.
I got home. There were 3 garbage bags and a copy paper box with all my worldly possessions in them on the back porch waiting for me to get the hell out of the house.
the copy paper box was Playboys.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, the reaction of parents could be diverse. I mean, you have Ed's parents' reaction, probably for good reason. Get him out of the
they
house.
were skipping when I left the house.
Right. Now in my case, what are you leaving? What do you want to move out for? You got to pay rent. You can live pretty much for free here. They actually tried to talk me out of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the generation.
Right.
Plus, the parents are actually, a lot of parents are helping the children to stay at home.
Right, and that's I think maybe that's some kind of a line because my mother and father, although my father said, what are you moving out for? There's plenty of room in the house. You can, my mother thought it was a fine idea.
Yeah.
So she's one that said to my father, hey, what are you saying? Don't be ridiculous.
Well, I mean,
but nobody tried to make me stay.
No.
So I think that's the line right there. In other words, they weren't crazy. They weren't both crazy to kick me out, but they weren't trying to talk me into staying either.
See, I had the best of both worlds, which was I moved out into this absolute dump of an apartment at about 18 years old with our old friend Chuckles the Clown. But I knew at any point, should I be down on my luck, I was welcome back at my parents' house. So I had the independence, I had the bachelor pad. But if things went awry, I could always head back to mom and dad's,
Right.
which is hell on the old social life. But
Right, but now in a lot of cases these days, now given that option, the first little thing that goes wrong,
Which, by the way-
kids run back to the parent. Now you didn't, obviously.
which, by the way, our old friend Chuckles the Clown did not have that option, and at one point he was living in the Bickford's parking lot, which is good for the social life because you leave Bickford, you say you want to come back to my place, and we're already here.
Well, yeah. Well, plus wasn't the whole house right next to the old
And
Bickfords?
Bickford's was 24/7
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. So all you got to do is just purchase food every 10 hours, and you can inhabit
Cup of
those.
coffee.
See, I
Yeah.
I also did not have that luxury when I left the house. On my way out of the house, I packed the last load into the car that I had at the time, and I said, "Mom, do you want the key back, or you want me to hold on to it?" She goes, "I don't care. The locks are being changed tomorrow
Damn.
morning."
And you're the favorite.
Scarily enough, yes.
Right. But now wrapping up what Tony said. Now, Tony, the key thing is though that when you moved out, you stayed out.
Right.
Right. And you knew you had the option, but you were never really that tempted to go back, right?
I guess I didn't have the need. So
Right. Right. You didn't have the need, and too many women were taking care of you. Maybe this is I would say that this is a big part of it too. If you have other women to step in and take care of you, being a guy,
Yep.
if you have other women to step in and take care of you and substitute for mom and dad, that makes it easier to stay away too.
True.
So if you're unwanted by the opposite sex or the same sex, if you go that way, if you're unwanted, I would say then it's logical you crawl back to mom and dad at some point. But that's not what's going on here. This is just an.
Kids are not being.
There's no right. They're not being raised to leave the pterodactyl nest.
now here,
They're just not.
here's something horrifying for all the listeners of the Haunted Cabaret. Moving out of my parents' house, first couple, probably first up to 5 years was always with roommates and stuff. And then I got up some money. I was able to get my own place, just by myself. And after living with your parents and then living with roommates, there is nothing better than coming home at the end of the day and just getting buck naked because you're the only one in that establishment.
Right. I don't blame you. That I've never experienced. I've always had roommates or girlfriends or live-in girlfriends. In other words, there's always been somebody else in the house. I have to say, I've never experienced living by myself for any length of time.
I have to agree with Tony on this one. When I moved out of the house, the first thing I did after everything was put away, I stripped down butt naked, lit up a cigar, got a beer, and I just sat in my recliner butt naked, kind of like marking my territory.
But
And
kind of bringing it back full circle, the generation now, for lack of a better term,
Yeah,
they
let's designate that catchphrase. Generation now.
they don't even have the desire for that level of independence to be able to strip buck naked and do whatever in their own place.
You kidding? These mutants, for all we know, they're stripping buck naked right in front of mom and dad. It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
now, you see, unfortunately or fortunately, or depending on how you look at it, I have nieces and nephews that range from mid-20s to mid-teens. So I'm seeing the gambit from a nephew who at 16, 17 years old, his mother is forcing him to go to driver's ed so he can get his driver's license. And the biggest catch for him, they're going to give him a $20,000 truck when he gets his license. You know what I got?
Are they looking to adopt?
But when I got my license,
In other words, they're bribing him.
I got a hand-me-down Granada, 1978. It was green with the red primer coming through it. Reeked of dog. and I was happy to have that.
Yeah.
My nephew, they have to bribe him with this almost brand new truck.
Right, to get something that by all rights he should be frothing at the mouth to get.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the music for a second. We'll stick with the subject of abnormal psychology. How's that?
Sounds good.
We'll keep the theme going. Little Dead Skin Mask by Slayer here on the Haunted Cabaret, Rhode Island Free Radio.
stay a while, and I promise I won't keep you long. I'll keep you forever.
Scrape the skin with my fingertips. The brush of dead cold flesh appease the me. Provoking images, delicate features so smooth. A pleasant fragrance in the light of the moon. Dance with the dead in my dreams. Listen to the hallowed screams. The dead have taken my soul. Temptations lost all control. Simple smiles elude psychotic eyes. Lose all mind control, rush now decline. Empty eyes inflame the creation of placid faces in lifeless magic. In the depths of a mind insane, fantasy and reality are the same. Scrape the skin with my fingertips. The rush of dead warm flesh pacifies me. Inside members ornament on my feet. Adulating the skin before me. Simple smiles elude psychotic eyes. Lose all mind control, rush now decline. Empty eyes inflame the creation of placid faces in lifeless pageant. Dance with the dead in my dreams. Listen to the hallowed scream. The dead have taken my soul. Temptation lost all control. Dance with the dead in my dreams. Listen to the hallowed scream. The dead have taken my soul. Temptations lost all control.
All right, that was Slayer, one of my favorites, Dead Skin Mask, here on the Haunted Cabaret. And I'll tell you, the adventures of Ed Gein. I'm never quite sure how to pronounce that serial killer. Gein. Ed Gein, I believe.
I would say Gein. Yeah.
Gein, right? Yeah. I mean, yep, he inspired Slayer. He inspired Robert Bloch to write Psycho. He inspired Leatherface, exactly. Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah, I'll tell you, one Psycho can do a lot of inspiring. If he has the right tools of the trade and the right attitude.
Well, that begs to bring to, again, back to what we were saying. If you're inspiring people to write this music with killing and murdering and all that other stuff, how can we get the current generations, the generation now, as you coined the phrase, how can you get them motivated if nothing else?
Well, I think we can get anybody motivated to kill and murder.
Well, killing and murdering is the easy part.
Mutilate,
but get them off their
terrorize.
backside and get them out of the house and get them to actually want to do for themselves. I mean, you got to knock that self-entitlement out of them.
Well, like the only way you're going to get them off the couch and out into the world to do for themselves is to come up with fun things for them to do. And I think that's where terrorism comes in.
Okay.
I'll tell you, and I said this to somebody, and they started, looked at me like, because I said terrorism is fun. Why do you think so many young people are turning to it? Why do you think so many people are turning to this idiot Bernie Sanders in politics? Because it's all the same thing. It's free
stuff.
Thank you, free stuff. Right, exactly. Free stuff from Bernie Sanders. ISIS says, okay, we'll give you a bunch of free stuff. Just blow up this building, and you can have all the, all the.
We're going to give you all these guns. We'll give you all the stuff you need to blow up the building. All you got to do is pull the trigger.
Yeah, you don't have to go to school. You don't have to work in fast food for 3 years while you work your way up the jobs ladder. It's fun. I mean, blowing things up is fun. It's the reason that most engineers become engineers.
It's kind of like a job I once had. All I had to do was show up.
Yeah,
I still have a job like that.
Yeah,
Free stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, think about it, like engineers. How many engineers would have gotten into the engineering if they didn't get to blow up large hills and mountains before they put in,
Oh yeah,
the houses?
Explosions are fun. I don't care who you are. My favorite holiday is 4th of July. I love blowing stuff up.
Right.
However, you have to moderate we're going to give you free crap to blow up, give you the stuff to blow it up with, don't do it at home.
Hey, just think about how many people go into policing or security or bouncing for the simple fact that they can beat the crap out of people on the regular basis and get paid for it.
Yeah, you carry a gun, a taser, you drive a car with all these cool lights. I'll tell you, that's, I've never been a police officer, but, I do security. And what I find amusing is one of the posts that I've held down recently. We have a former police car for a patrol vehicle.
So you're in the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm in the Blues Brothers mobile. Well, not anymore because one of the numbskulls drove it off a ramp and crashed it nose first, and that's the last we saw of it. But, yeah, I think I'm the only security personnel ever to work there that didn't, the minute he sat behind the wheel, hit all the flashing lights.
Oh, yeah.
And a couple of times I came to work to relieve one of these guys, and sure enough, I thought like the circus, 4th of July and Christmas had come to town all at once. I mean, no police officer ever had more lights, flashing on this car.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, all three of us in this room have been in the security business at one time or another. Actually, I'm thinking about getting back into it. Have you ever worked with someone who thought that they were changing the world with their minimum wage security job?
Oh, yeah.
Because I have, especially some of the, and so it's actually, it comes back to the point earlier about, staying busy. Some of the retirees, man, they really think they're changing the world being a security guard.
Yeah, well, the retirees, I can somewhat cut them a little bit of slack, as they say, because a lot of these retirees were former police officers in business. A lot of these, or tradesmen. In other words,
people that had a work ethic before they got into it.
Exactly. So that it kills them not to be able to pursue an occupation where they can.
That's meaningful, yeah.
Yeah, best word, meaningful, right.
Now,
so they try to make a meaningless job meaningful.
Right.
So I can understand that.
Now, I've seen it on the bouncing end. I was a bouncer in several different clubs, and the people that tried to make a difference were the ones that you always had to put them somewhere where nobody goes because they're always the ones, oh, come on, guys, there's a fight.
Get them, boys.
All right, now I have to, bouncers.
Yep.
How the hell does a bouncer think he's making a difference in the world? I mean, I would say that stops at the okay, let's beat the crap out of somebody, kind of like professional prize fighting or something.
But it gets to the point where you're looking for a reason to just unload on somebody.
Okay, that's not changing the world. That's looking for a reason to unload.
You're right. But you feel that you're doing the world a service by kicking someone's ass. I got to say it.
Well, actually, some of the people that I've met
don't get me wrong. There's some people that deserve that ass.
I was just going to say, some of the people I've met in clubs and I've seen get beatings, I wish they had beat them harder, really.
But, I mean, there was several people that they would just go out of their way to pick a fight with someone that they knew number one, they knew they were going to win that fight. And number two, that person probably like sneezed to the right. The girl went, ooh, and he just got grabbed by the back of the neck and dragged 40 feet to the door.
Right.
Getting punched and kicked the whole way.
I think that's probably the same personality that we have in some of these rogue police officers too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same. Some of these people with these propensities, channel it successfully. Become prize fighters, kickboxers, maybe professional torturers overseas. But then the rest. Or Stephen King likes to say, he has an obsession that's marketable.
Yes.
And that keeps him out of prison.
I only struck a guy once on a security detail, and that was just because it was in the middle of the summer. It was the hottest day of the year.
And he got the last Dell's lemonade off that truck.
And I had to go chase this guy through the streets of Providence to get him back into the institution that I was working at. So,
okay, that's a whole other story. Yes, if somebody leads you a chase on 90-degree heat.
Yep. And I found him out there. He was hiding behind some landscape shrubage, and I just gave him a nice little whack, help him back into the building.
Yeah, that's fine. That's therapeutic. All right, we're still on the subject. I'm looking at the playlist. We're still on the subject, both conversationally and musically, of mental deviation here. Let's go with Little Alice Cooper. Now, I just want to say very quickly, I've played this song on the show before, and a couple of people have had the nerve to criticize me for playing sensitive ballads on the Haunted Cabaret. All that tells me is that now I know who's not listening to the words. Okay, pay attention, kiddies. This is a nice story. This is Millie and Billy off the From the Inside album. Alice Cooper here on the Haunted Cabaret, Rhode Island Free Radio.
Billy, I wonder why are we insane? Will we ever get better? Will we stay the same? Billy, I'm worried.
Millie, don't worry. No one knows our pain. Being in love is crazy. Not alone that way. Oh, I know you're worried today.
God made love crazy so we wouldn't feel alone. He was thinking of us, he was thinking of us. God made love crazy so we wouldn't feel so alone.
Billy, my mind seems to wander to events of a night long ago. Driving along with our guilt well concealed in the trunk of your 68 Olds.
Millie, our world's an asylum, and our minds, like you say, ain't that straight. But you know and I know our passions, not deformed, it's true, I say.
We love our lifetime.
God made love crazy so we wouldn't feel alone. He was thinking of us, he was thinking of us. God made love crazy so we wouldn't feel so alone.
Billy, I dream of our children. They're frightening and gruesome and sad. And I don't want them growing inside me. They're no prize for the love that we had.
Oh, Millie,
Oh, Billy.
criminally insane.
Oh, Billy.
Oh, Millie.
Oh, Billy, it's fresh in my memory. The night that it had to be done. You
pickaxe and scissors.
And you with your shovel and gun.
And I liked your late husband Donald, but such torture his memory brings. All sliced up and sealed tight in baggies. Guess love makes you do funny things.
Oh, Billy,
Oh, Millie,
criminally insane.
whoa, Millie.
Oh, Billy.
All right. That was Alice Cooper, one of my favorite Alice Cooper ballads, Millie and Billy. And I hope my little hint at the beginning of the song led you to pay a little closer attention than those misguided folks that criticized me, last time I played it. That is not a love ballad. Well, it is, though. I mean, to me, it's touching.
It is.
It is. It is touching. It's just not in the same caliber of traditional, let's say traditional, as You and Me, I Never Cry, and all those Alice Cooper things that he, basically wrote to make a lot of money to finance songs like this. But, yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for a good ballad, from time to time.
I mean, I like it when an artist can step out of what the expected is.
Right.
You don't expect these heavy metal bands, or even back in the 70s, the power ballad bands, where all they played was power ballads. Scorpions is a prime example of that.
Right.
And they just break the mold of everything they've done, and they'll do a song like Millie and Billy.
Right. Yeah, so it breaks the monotony. Although I got to say, there's not too many power ballads. See, you just got me thinking about the 70s and 80s now. There's not too many power ballads that I really say to myself, you know what? Those are really great songs. They're not just power ballads.
I didn't say they were good.
No, you got me thinking. You got me thinking. How many of them are really good? There's always a couple. I'm just trying to think if I can.
Let's just say not many of those tunes are going to make it into the Library of Congress to be preserved for future generations.
No, they're not. And they're not going to make it on too many spacecraft headed out of the solar system. No.
No. Yeah, I mean, the only ones I can really think of, like I said, are the Scorpions, The Rhythm of Love, Sweet Child of Mine, Guns N' Roses, things that really they became instrumental for a lot of people maturing in that.
Firehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was actually the second generation of power ballads, though. I think I don't know if these would be actual power ballads per se or proto power ballads, but I'm thinking like mid 70s, late 70s, like Kiss, Beth, Alice Cooper.
Yeah.
Speaking of Alice Cooper, Only Women Bleed.
Yep.
I'm not sure if those are power ballads according to the definition of the term, but they definitely led to them.
Well, the reason they survive to this day is because that whole generation got laid to all those songs. And now they have the nostalgia to look back, and they're still rocking them.
Yep. Yeah, because then Guns N' Roses was, tweak my memory, mid '80s. Appetite for Destruction.
Appetite for Destruction was like 86, 87.
Okay. Yeah, that was the second, right? And then
upwards to 90s.
Yeah, and then once Appetite for Destruction hit, then it was Poison, then it was Warrant, then it was then the floodgates of hair opened.
The floodgates of hair, the spandex came out, and then you had atrocities like Unskinny Bop coming out, and it just, the power ballads were bastardized to the point of it's just whiny bitches and spandex.
Yeah, things got ugly.
Yeah.
They really did, as they always do. I can't think of one musical movement, fad.
Now, to extrapolate that into what we were talking about earlier.
This is why they pay you the big bucks, Ed. If you can extrapolate that into, well, actually, which one of the things we were talking about earlier?
We're actually going to go full circle with this. you're taking the the bastardized music. Well, they had good intention to begin with,
Right.
and then the hairspray came out and the spandex because it wasn't just good enough to have these power ballads or these pseudo power ballads.
Right.
Now we have to turn it into something ugly.
Right. Played by whining bastards.
Exactly. Well, then you take what we were talking about earlier, where the kids, they don't want to leave the house and all this. The parents started off with good intentions. I don't want my kids to go through the hard work that I had to go through, which is going to twist what these kids' sense of reality, their sense of entitlement, their sense of work ethic.
Right. Not so much the hard work, though, right? It would be, wouldn't you say it was more, I don't want my kids to repeat the mistakes I made? Isn't that more?
But if the kids don't learn by making
I know, but
those mistakes on their own, they're
Of course.
doomed to repeat history.
Of course. Or they're doomed to go into some deviant direction that has nothing to do with normal child development.
Exactly.
By making
Unless
these
you
mistakes.
keep them in a bubble until they're 40 years old.
Yes.
But even then, the kids are going to the mind is still active,
Right.
and unless you're teaching them or they're learning on their own, they're going to have a warped sense of reality,
Yes,
a warped
and-
sense of entitlement, and they're going to have to get a serious butt whooping before they actually start flying true.
I don't think a butt whooping at 40 is going to do a damn thing. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of very prominent serial killers at the age of 40 going forward.
But I'm speaking from personal experience. There is nothing better for you than working an absolute shit job to realize, man, I better get my ass in education or else I'm going to be working a shit job for the rest of my life. And
Right.
these kids aren't even going to experience that because they have no reason or no need to work.
Well, we've always had an element of the population that started to work the shit job and then said, you know what, I don't like working. I'm going to be a musician and get a girlfriend, and live in the girls' basement. So we've always had an element
Right.
of the population. But like the scary thing, like you guys have said, is that it's a large segment of the population.
What do you call a musician without a girlfriend?
Guy
Homeless.
or a guy with a job.
Employed. But I mean, it even goes down to when kids are getting their class rings, because I just had to go through this conversation with one of my nephews. Gamer. The kids who play video games for 18 hours a day. Yes. When you get your class ring now, most schools have the option to have gamer put on the side of your class ring. Just to show how much of a nerd and a waste of skin you are.
Damn.
Let's prove it by putting it in 18-karat gold.
That'd be like if for our generation you could put Dungeons and Dragons on the side of your class ring.
Yeah, D and D. Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I think nerd. I don't know. I take exception to. There are nerds, and then there's nerds.
Yeah.
I mean, there are nerds. The people in this room are nerds. On the other hand,
The side
then-
of my class ring would have said radio enthusiast. What's that tell you?
right, but that's this. Then you have the subseller of nerds, which is all day gaming, as presented so ably on South Park.
Yeah.
If you remember that episode.
No, I stopped watching after I think season 2.
Okay, well,
on South Park.
basically, South Park just did an episode where the kids set out to defeat the world's greatest gamer, and to do this, they just spent 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in the basement, growing zits and getting fat, eating junk food.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, never was a truer portrayal of a gamer ever portrayed than on that episode of South Park.
Sure.
But Tony, how are we doing for time? 5 minutes. Oh, that's terrible. All right, I guess it's time to get out of here. As a matter of fact, you know what, Tony? I'd like to finish up with some live Bloister Cult. So, which is about a 5-minute track. Perfect. All right, so let's get out of here for this episode. Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, all future listeners.
Thank you, Cox Cable.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for nothing.
Well, for this giant social experiment.
Which, by the way, people are freaking out.
Oh, I'm sure. Okay, here we go. Hot Rails to Hell, Blue Oyster Cult, live on the Haunted Cabaret. Nighty-night.
Riding on the ground, swimming in sweat. say.